tell us when to start? Okay. So hello and welcome. We're here with our amazing guest today. So I'm really excited to start another BullCaster, like with our special guest, who's a founder, of NFT NYC. So Cameron, really great to have you here with us.
Thank you, Constantin.
Yeah, so Cameron Bale has been around, so since for many years, right? And it was just interesting to finally meet because I was one of the first participants in NFT NYC, naturally, being here. So, and you've been, producing a lot of amazing shows, a lot of amazing events, and generally interested in the space. So, probably naturally would be, the kind of the question of how did you get into crypto space, like, and what was a precursor, to create the NFT NYC?
I'll try to keep it short. It could be a long story, but so we started NFT NYC, Jody Rich and myself in 2018. Prior to that, we've been working since 2009 on creating white label solutions for brands. And since 2009, we were very focused on social applications for brands that would help them sort of directly engage with their audiences. And one of our customers asked us to integrate with a blockchain so that we could do like a crypto reward inside of one of those social apps. It was actually for a bank, which was kind of interesting. So that was our first crypto integration, which was in 2014. And then in 2017, we sort of started to understand that people were registering, digital assets on the blockchain, which we now call NFTs. And we thought that our audience, or our customers of brands that had community and had IP, would be able to, create some value with that technology. And so we sort of changed our approach, or evolved our approach, from creating social apps for brands to creating NFT experiences for brands. And we launched a platform in 2018. And we were going around to all the crypto conferences talking about it, and nobody cared at all about NFTs. So, the common thing that people would say is that, we're getting rich off ICOs. Why would we care about something that's non-fungible? And so, we would sort of like hang out in the corner with the guys from OpenSea and some artists like Josie and some gaming people, probably like yourself. And we'll, talk about NFTs. And so we decided to create an event that was specifically just for the NFT community, which was NFT NYC. And we hosted the first one in February 2019.
Yeah, and this is exciting, right? And I know you've been, you have some other products, like, which was NFT.Kred, right? So it's a creation platform for creation, marketing, distribution of NFTs, right? Also released somewhere at this time. And it was also interesting, like, as Snoop Dogg's once said, like, every great industry has a downfall. So there has been like right now crypto winter. So obviously we want to address this question. We're in a bear market still, and I think this is a very short pump that we're seeing right now, like related to Davos, World Economic Forum activities, right? So please, like, tell us how do you envision the future of NFTs, and what excites you the most in the current trend?
Well, in terms of, we're sort of wearing two hats, right? Like through NFT.Kred, we work specifically with consumer brands. And with NFT NYC, we get a much more broad perspective of what's happening. What we're seeing, sort of the general consensus, is that NFTs are not going anywhere. Despite them using the same technology as cryptocurrencies, they're not the same as cryptocurrencies. And as the prices fluctuate with crypto, what we're seeing is that some of the businesses that are basing their revenue streams on crypto may be in troubled times. But the people that are using NFTs to drive utility, like consumer brands that are actually creating experiences with NFTs, are not seeing any real negative impact from the crypto markets being on a downturn. So I think there was a quote that people kept throwing around at NFT NYC in June last year, which was that or they say it's not a bear market, it's a build market. And I think that that's still true. Like we're just seeing more and more adoption of people with real world utility and more interesting use cases of NFTs, less speculation, which I think in the long run is a really positive thing for the technology.
100% agree. So if you were to also think about it, like what are the key factors that will drive the growth and adoption of NFTs in the near future? Like I'm sure you speak to a lot of founders, a lot of experts in the field, so curious to hear your opinion.
Well, personally, I think that there's two things. One is brands. Like I think that brands are really like the password for like mass adoption. And I think that brands adopting NFTs, like right now, we're sort of seeing the tip of the iceberg where brands are advertising that they're doing stuff with NFTs. And I think that what we're going to see is that brands start integrating NFTs into their existing user experiences without necessarily advertising that they're using NFTs at all. So, we'll see the benefits of NFTs, whether it's sort of the tradability or, interoperability or whatever it is. We'll see all those benefits sort of under the hood in consumer experiences, and people will be interacting with brands that they've known forever and they trust, and they won't even necessarily know, but they'll be interacting with NFTs. We're seeing that already, like fashion brand Coach has been using NFTs to drive engagement through their loyalty program called Coach Insider, which is really great because now, people that are going out there and buying handbags are now interacting with NFTs, and they don't need to care about crypto or any of that stuff. Ticketmaster and Live Nation, they've been ticketing millions of events and offering those people a digital ticket, which is actually backed by an NFT. So I think like consumer brands using NFTs is going to be like the real key to mass adoption. And then the second part of that, I think, is this move away from speculation. I think what most people, the way they get into NFTs is they see that it's a way probably to make money. And that's obviously one of the benefits is like whether it's an in-game item that I can earn and then sell, or if it's a piece of art that may increase in value and I can sell and make some money. I think people are very familiar with the idea of having an NFT and realizing value from that NFT when they sell it. And I think like one of the most important things that can happen is when people use or create environments or some sort of customer journey where people can realize more value by actually holding on to the NFT than selling it. So layering on benefits on top of those NFTs and real utility. I think when people start to create more value from holding the NFT than the speculative value of selling it, I think that's what's going to make more and more people realize why it's so important and create such a valuable opportunity for them in their plans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think where we see also like that a lot of other membership formats are pretty popular and they're like interesting, and also phygital. Like I'm actually excited. Like we listed recently one of the projects that was offering embedded in the NFTs opportunity to win a luxury bag, which is a no-brainer because the bag was more expensive sometimes than the NFT itself. So it's like you think about it, wow, it's just like you get a digital asset and a physical asset. Like it's amazing, right? So coming back to the core like focus of yours, I assume, right? 2023, you're preparing for NFT NYC, which is an exciting, moment. Can you tell us a little bit about the dates, about the preparation, what's more to expect?
Yeah, so we're sort of on the downhill run now. I think it's about 12 weeks away. Today is January 20. It is the event is going to be hosted April 12 to 14 in the week just after Easter. It's going to be at the North Javits Center in New York City, which we're very excited about for the reason that, sorry, go ahead.
Bigger venue.
Yeah,
bigger venue. Like last time, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bigger venue.
Different...
Every year we've done something different. Like the first year we're at a venue called the PlayStation Theater, which is now called the Palladium. The second year we moved to the Edison Ballroom because the Palladium had closed down for a year for renovations. The third year we started with both of those two venues, and then we realized we needed more space because more people were registering. And so we decided to sort of keep growing with the demand of people buying tickets and speakers and things like that. And so we ended up with this sort of like festival feel of multiple different venues all around Times Square in New York City, which in one way was really great because people were sort of buzzing around between different venues. But, some feedback from the community was that they'd prefer to have everything under one roof so that it was much easier to get from A to B from one stage to another, and it was easier to find your way around. So last year in November, we hosted our first event in London, and we experimented with having a single venue. And I think that was one of the biggest benefits of doing that, is that it was much easier to navigate. For us as people that are organizing operations, it's much easier to work with, one AV company and one print company and one, caterer and all of those things. And so this year, what we're doing in New York City is, instead of starting with a smaller space and expanding as we go, we're starting with a big space and filling it up. And so North Javits is a really great venue. It's been open only for a year. There's a beautiful rooftop space, and we're going to be able to create some really interesting experiences for the different verticals that we're talking to.
Mm-hmm. That's exciting. Okay, so I told you I'm going to definitely register as a speaker, possibly. So, and so, so could you tell us more about the artist showcase, right? Because I know there's some innovative things you're testing there.
Well, I think, like, back to that point before about how people first get into NFTs, I think that art has been sort of the first use case that has been most widely recognized, because I think people understand it. And artists have flocked to this technology, but now there's a point where there's so many great artists that, only a certain level of artists are really seeking recognition or finding recognition. And so one of the things that we have always tried to do with NFT NYC is give people a voice. And that might mean that someone who wants to speak that is unrecognized or has a new idea or doesn't have a brand or a project yet, we want to give them a chance to go on stage. And now, similarly with artists, what we want to do is give artists from the community the opportunity to actually feature their artworks either in the Artist Village, which will be a gallery space on the rooftop at NFT NYC this year, or about 200 artists are actually going to be shown on Times Square billboards.
Nice. Okay, so it's going to be fun.
Well, it's exciting.
So
the response has been crazy. Like, we in about 3 weeks, we had about 3,500 artists actually submit.
wow. So how do you filter them? I'm curious. So let's imagine I want to ask you more provocative questions, because we have another question before we open the mic for the audience. So let's imagine there's equally like interesting two artists, right? One, let's say from the music industry, and they have different genres, let's say very, very similar following, both amazing, up and coming, but how do you pick one towards another?
Well, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And I think that we, as event organizers, we do not want to be curators. I don't want to be the person that has been, has the responsibility of choosing one person over another. And so what we're really doing, what we're really trying to do is, rather than choose, this artist over that artist, what we're looking at is, like, does this artist really, is this someone that really identifies as an artist? Are they serious about what they're doing? Do they have a portfolio of artworks? And is the artwork that they've submitted appropriate for the event? And in that case, most of the artists that they've submitted that meet that criteria, we're actually giving them a chance, because we don't want to be really seen as gatekeepers that are sort of choosing one person over another. What we want to be seen as is people that are rewarding contribution. And so, any artist that wants to contribute their artwork and they meet that fairly simple criteria, we want to give them a chance, and we want to put their artwork up and let people see it throughout the event. And we'll give them a complimentary ticket to come to the entire event, so they can come to New York for the week and they can, experience everything else that the show has to offer.
That's exciting. So what can we expect from brands, like the engagement from brands like at NFT NYC? What are like any other like interesting, innovative like things? So I know there are a lot of people who are like experimenting with drones right now, some other like LED lights that are like immersive, and they mimic, let's say they mimic the sound waves and they reproduce a specific image, so I don't know, maybe some other things that are exciting.
That's funny that you say that. Last year, Elon Musk's brother, Kimball Musk, he actually spoke about a company that he acquired, which does just that. So they produce artworks in the sky with drones, and his mission is right, and he's reducing the environmental impact with fireworks, right? But it's like creating this huge, like this new medium for art to sort of be projected in the sky, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Your point about brands, though, like what what we are doing, we're talking to brands that are listed on the NASDAQ. We're talking to traditional consumer brands. We're seeing this great interest from brands that people really recognize that are adopting the technology this year. We've seen it every year, but it's growing every, year over year. This year, there's consumer brands like Nike, like Porsche, all sorts of brands that are going to be at the event talking about what they're doing. So it's really exciting.
I'm sure it is, so definitely want to be part of it. And again, I'm sure we can talk about it like for some time, but I want to open up the mic for our listeners, for the audience, right? And they will ask you directly all the questions. I'm just gonna be the conduit to read them.
Cool.
So we have questions from YouTube, a lot of them, and some from LinkedIn and Twitter. So I'll start from YouTube. So Captain Huddle is asking, after the success of NFT NYC last year, do you guys plan to take the conference to different cities, maybe a different country?
That's a great question. We get asked that a lot. Last year, we did do NFT London for the first time in November. The reason for that really was that before we held NFT NYC, we did a series of sort of small events. We did one in San Francisco. The following day, we did one in New York City. And then the following day, we did one in London. And they were these sort of small meetup groups, about 200 people or something like that. And we had the best reception in both New York and in London. And so, last year we decided to host NFT London for the first time. We found that about 30% of the NFT NYC audience, interestingly, came from the UK or Western Europe. And so, that was a no-brainer for us. We experimented with it. It was a success. We had about 2,500 people come. And so that was a great show for us. We're really focused on New York and London. We will not be focusing on any other cities at the moment, but there are people that are. So, we want to see how we can work with these other events that people are hosting in their own cities. People are talking about Vienna in Austria. People are talking about Seoul in Korea and Tokyo in Japan. So, whatever people do, we would love to support them, but we're very focused on New York and London.
There's a interesting question. So you will love it, from YouTube. What are your thoughts on the recent launch of Metaverse Seoul in South Korea, given the country's ban on, I think it's play to earn or pay to ban games? I think play to earn, that was the question.
In South Korea. So that's a really good question. We've actually seen, so you started earlier in the call, you talked about sort of the crypto markets and the effect that that's having on, interest in NFT space. I think that a really interesting thing, and I'm not sure if it's related to the crypto markets or sort of more general economic markets, but we've seen that the Asian markets, specifically Korea, is in its strides. Like, they're very, very strong at the moment. There's a lot of adoption in Korea. So I can't recall exactly what the question was, but Korea seems to be like a really emerging market for NFTs.
I think that's answers partially to it. Yeah, it's a more specific one to Korea, I think. Let's talk about the other things. Rafael from asking from YouTube, what are some of the core principles of NFT NYC that will never change?
That's a good question. So I can't remember which one comes first, but we do have 3 core values. One of them is to give people a voice. So, like I said before, if someone comes to us and submits a speaking application and they have an interesting idea, whether they're an unknown person or a celebrity, we don't really care. Like, if it's an interesting idea, we're going to give someone a chance to go on stage. And that's something that I think is very different to a lot of shows. I think people that come to conferences often expect to see, a list of 50 speakers, and they're all very well-known names. Many of them might be celebrities or athletes or things like that, people recognize their face as soon as they go on stage. We really take pride in giving the little guy a chance, and someone that has a new idea or a new business, give them the opportunity to go on stage and talk about it. Sometimes that works out really well. Sometimes a project, like in 2019, I think we had about 80 people speak at the first event. And I think probably 50% of the people that spoke at that first event have gone on to build the businesses that we all know today, whether it's like OpenSea or Nifty Gateway or gaming companies like Blockade Games, things like that. Sometimes sometimes their ideas or their projects may not work out, but we really value, giving people a chance and giving the community a voice. And so, to speak to that as well, this year at NFT NYC, we're going to be focusing on how people can choose the type of programming that they want to navigate to, whether it's sort of the rising stars from the community or whether it's really that sort of track of well-known speakers in sort of the all-star stage. That was one of our core values, giving people a voice. Another one is about proselytizing NFTs. So
Mhm.
proselytizing really like where we want to show people that we eat our own dog food and we practice what we preach. And so we really
Evangelist.
we're very focused on incorporating NFTs into the event experience. So since the first event, we introduced something called the NFT swag bag, where we decided to deliver
Mhm.
custom NFTs from all the sponsors to every attendee. Since then, we've been doing speaker card NFTs where you can collect your favorite speakers, like collecting Pokemon. This year, we've also been doing commemorative ticket stubs where people can get essentially like a proof of attendance token featuring art from one of the artists that has collaborated with us for the artist showcase. And this year, we're also doing NFT ticketing where people can actually use their NFT to scan into the event.
Mm-hmm. That's fun. Actually, one of the recent fun utility that I've tried, just to share with you. So I'm a contributor writer in Cointelegraph. So I wrote an
Oh,
article, and then you see, and it offers me to create an NFT out of my article. So on Polygon, like just to pay like few matic, I was like, wow, this is fun. So, and immediately the price, I think I paid like 24 matic, and then now it can be bought for 65. So I have 3x on my article. So
that's
um,
that's
it's
fantastic.
fun, because you can imagine there can be some iconic articles which are very, very important as like a piece of history, right? So I think it's a very smart application. But I have here another interesting question from Glitch Trap from YouTube is asking, I saw that Shiba Inu and Bugatti Group have partnered to create an NFT reward program with bags. What are some of the other interesting collaborations between big brands you know?
Oh wow. Collaborations between big brands.
Well, you
So
mentioned before Porsche, etc., right? So maybe some others that are not
yeah,
public yet, or maybe.
so Porsche, I think they're actually doing a drop tomorrow, but I'll speak to another one. So Coach, the
Mhm.
fashion brand I was talking about earlier. So Coach, as we know, they're very well known for creating handbags. Their market is not necessarily the NFT audience, right? Like traditionally, unfortunately, the NFT audience typically looks like me. They're typically young males, and we're not always the audience that's buying handbags. But Coach has done something really interesting in showing how this fashion brand that has been iconic, they've been around for over 100 years, I think, how they're using a new technology to engage a different audience, but also to sort of motivate their existing customers, the people that are interested in their fashion and their handbags, to actually adopt this new technology. So they actually during NFT NYC last year, they did a launch with an artist called Shakespeare, and they had a token that represented their classic, I think it's called the Madison handbag, which is a very famous handbag that they did, but they did a digital version reimagined by this amazing artist called Shakespeare. And they actually used it for a few different things. And one of them was to actually get access to this, Fifth Avenue Coach store party that they were hosting during NFT NYC. And so, that was a really cool use case for people that were curious, that were into NFTs. Like, get the NFT and you can come and learn more about the brand. But the
Mhm.
inverse of that is that they're actually using NFTs to grant access to their Coach Insider program. And so anyone that has been, a customer of Coach for so long and part of this loyalty program, they're actually now able to get an NFT that gives them access to additional benefits moving forward. And so they're introducing sort of the non-NFT audience into NFTs and showing how the NFT can actually grant loyalty benefits to those people.
That's actually very smart, interesting. I didn't know about it, so we'll also take a look. Um, so okay, so there are more questions specifically like from LinkedIn also. I want to so Mehdi Hussein from LinkedIn is asking, what do you think of the United States allowing NFTs to for fundraising purposes? I see this is as a big win. Would you be interested in doing a charity fundraiser with NFTs?
I think it's a great idea. Like one of the things that especially in the US, we see that people love to identify themselves and the causes that they get behind. And I think one of the most obvious ways that people do that is with like bumper stickers on their cars. And quite often people, put a sticker on their car that says that they voted, or they'll put a sticker on their car that says which football team they care about, or they'll put a sticker on their team which says that they're a Democrat or a Republican or something else, or
University.
or a university. Exactly. Like people create identity, and they really want their identity to be sort of like exposed to the world. They want people to see what they care about. And I think NFTs are a really interesting way of doing that, because they really create like a record of the things that you're interested in. Like I can see, if I was to look at your wallet, Constantin, I could probably see some in-game items from the games that you like to play. And I could see some art from the artists that you like, and some tickets from the events that you're interested in. But if I could see also the causes that you care about, I think that's a really interesting way of people creating that identity using NFTs, but perhaps in a way that is maybe with a lower environmental impact as well. Because now that people are using different blockchains, like proof of stake chains, where the cost or the environmental impact to mint an NFT or to transfer an NFT is even less than publishing a tweet on Twitter. It could be a really interesting way for people to fundraise, create identity, and get the benefits of those types of campaigns, but without necessarily the environmental impact, and without them needing
Mhm.
to. You don't even need to have a car to put the bumper sticker on anymore. You can just have a wallet.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's interesting. We have a question from Twitter, actually a couple. So late registration, that's a nickname from Twitter, is asking, what are your thoughts on OpenSea's decision to block Cuban artists and collectors from the platform to comply with US sanctions? When will we see the perfect decentralized marketplace? That's a
That's
loaded question.
yeah, that one goes over my head. All I will say is that OpenSea was created by Devin Finzer and Alex Atala. They're friends, and these guys care about this technology in the community, I think, as much or more than anyone. So I think, as a big company, they have a responsibility to do certain things. I don't think OpenSea is like alone in that case, by any stretch. But I think that they have a responsibility to protect themselves, to keep doing what they're doing. And
Mhm.
I think one of the utopia that we're all striving for is a complete decentralization. I think it's coming, but there's some road bumps along the way.
Yeah. Um, that's so actually there's a beautiful one of the last questions I'll ask you. So Dogan from Twitter is asking, say, hi Cameron. Well, what are the chances of us seeing a collaboration between BullPerks and NFT NYC? I think it's an amazing question.
Between who and NFT NYC? BullPerks and NFT NYC.
BullPerks are our company, right?
Oh, we're working on it. This is it. We've just started it, and we're going to get Constantine on stage to talk about it. So 100%, let's do it.
Okay, so this is the first start, and yeah, I mean, I think we have no, I think we have another 2 minutes for questions. So yeah, we have a lot, so I'll just pick one of them. Nakamoto-san from YouTube is asking, what new year seems to be good for NFT sales so far? I think this new year, the new year seems to be good for NFT sales. How do you expect 2023 to continue financially for NFTs? I think the question is probably a secondary market.
Wow. Well, another loaded question, but before we were talking about mass adoption and brands being very important to that. We're seeing a huge amount of brands come into the space. And so I think adoption will continue despite crypto markets suffering at the moment. I think more people means more interest, means secondary markets hopefully will be stronger. So, I don't know, fingers crossed.
Yeah, I agree. And the last one I'll ask is today from Farah from YouTube is asking, how can the NFT and gaming spaces be more integrated? Are there any aspects or narratives about NFTs that should be changed to increase adoption?
Yeah, I'll definitely. So I think one of the things that has always, like, I think most of us are aware of, but has pained some of us, is that when you first talk about NFTs, everyone looks at you like you are crazy. Like, your wife or your parents or your partner or your kids or someone, your boss, has probably gone, what, I have no idea what it is that you're talking about. It's some crazy, voodoo technology. I think there's like a demystification that needs to happen. But at the same time, like there's probably ways where NFTs are going to become so sort of mainstream because they're just under the hood. Like there's so much technology that we're all using all the time. Like we're talking on Zoom at the moment. There's a voice over internet protocol technology that's being used behind the scenes, but no one talks about it. So I think as people start to focus on the benefits and not so much the technology, I think that will normalize it. But in terms of gaming, like there's been a really interesting sort of progression in the adoption of NFTs in gaming this last year. If anyone that's been following the GameStop saga will have seen that GameStop has launched their beta NFT marketplace. I think that that's a really great example of brand adoption or mainstream adoption of NFTs. I think that's going to be really, really important because specifically for gaming, and probably a lot of the people watching this, if you're interested in GamesPad and gaming, like you understand that NFTs can be revolutionary for gaming, especially about in-game items and people realizing value from their investment into playing a game. And I think that's, we talked earlier about art being one of the most sort of digestible use cases of NFTs, and that's sort of the first thing that people understand and it clicks. I think in-game items and gaming is that's the next step. And so in terms of like broad adoption, I think that gaming is what's coming sort of directly after art. It's already happening. But in terms of sort of seeing that adoption, I think major players like game developers or GameStop with their marketplace and supporting that and sort of normalizing it for gamers is what's really important.
Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful way to conclude. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you for sharing your thoughts here. I don't know, you probably broke a record on like answering the number of questions. You're so precise and concise in your answers. I love that. So we also thank our community, thank you for everyone who's joining BullCaster today, so we're gonna invite more incredible people like Cameron, like other investors, partners, or remarkable personalities, and like we'll see you right about like 4 p.m. UTC or 11 a.m. EST and YouTube live, LinkedIn live, Twitter lives, any lives you can possibly just fathom. So, and hopefully, yes, we're going to work very closely with NFT NYC. Definitely, we're looking forward to attend this time in Jefferson Center. It's going to be, it's one of the, I think it's the biggest venue in New York City, right? So the fact that that Cameron and his team is growing to this level, and there is such an adoption in terms of like people physically showing up. It's not like virtually you're trading. There's people who are genuinely interested to explore use cases. I think that itself shows that we are slowly but surely getting to a more mature stage. Thank you for everything you're doing, Cameron. Hopefully we'll see you more.
Thank you, Constantine. See you in April.
See you. Cheers.
Yeah. Bye.